PMOS is the most common hormonal disorder in women, up to 1 in 8, and it's highly heritable, but most of its genetic signal hides in non-coded DNA, where nobody knows which single base is causal. Someone I love lives with it, so I ask one concrete question: can a model that reads DNA name that base? I started with the obvious move: score all 589 variants through frozen and former arboreozoid, straight off the box. Nothing. Predictive effect versus measured analytic strength is flat. But before I call anything a failure, I have to prove the instrument works. I train a tissue-adapted probe on frozen borzoi features to predict enhancer activity, leave one locus out. Raw 0.36 in both steroidogenic cell lines. It clears my pre-registered bar. Activity is readable. Maybe the allele lives deeper in the network. I proved the penultimate embeddings, the richest frozen representation there is, a near miss at 0.25, but it never clears the bar on a clean window disjoint fold. Frozen representations are exhausted. So I added learn readouts, a supervised probe, then direct steroidogenic TF motif, disruption from Jaspar, both null on the allele, no learn head recovers it either. Now was time for the frontier, alpha genome, rescored across every official variant scorer, gene linked and tissue restricted, null on every arm, however I aggregate. If the giant couldn't do it, maybe a model trained on this data itself can. So I built a reporter CNN from scratch on the star elements. It learns activity, but it still can't read the allele. Then I stopped training tiny nets and adapted a large backbone, LoRa, on the informer trunk, 0.30% of its parameters, with a steroidogenic head. And here I have to be honest, it barely matches my simple frozen probe on activity, and the allele stays dark. Adaptation did it by the allele. So I went back to the one model class, the field credits with base resolution, reporter allele models, Mali noise, MPAC, and in-tissue delta SBM, flat null on then D1A. But here's the pivot. The same Mali noise validates on a gold standard MPRA at 0.39. So is my pipeline broken, or is this locus special? This is a card a skeptic should demand. Two positive controls. 1. The same pipeline resolves single base effects on the Kircher MPRA at 0.38. It works where the signal exists. 2. In-tissue EQTL fine mapping shows then D1A in the 1P most locus with 0 adrenal or over-equatable sets. The null is real, and the locus is generally atypical. I closed the remaining base resolution classes, Splash AI and Decima, method classes 11 and 12, both no-go. I localized why. It isn't the models are bad, it's a tissue gap, a data gap, and an AQTL silent locus. The model that nails K562 is blind in steroidogenic cells because the training data for those cells doesn't exist yet. The only fix with a chance of flipping, this is a matched tissue allelic MPRA in steroidogenic cells, a polar lab assay that doesn't exist. So the negative becomes the deliverable. A reusable activity versus allele benchmark, a region-level shortlist across 10 unsolved loci, and an honest pre-registered bound that stops a lab from putting a student on a causal base that data cannot support. The instrument reads the activity, it cannot read the allele, and across 12 model classes, 2 positive controls and 1 pre-registered negative, I proved exactly why. A rigorous honest no, so no lab and no one living with PMOS chases a base that the data cannot support.